Welcome to the Muscle Expert Podcast with Ben Pakulski, one of the world's top professional bodybuilders, an expert on human performance and mindset mastery. Ben dives deep to deliver the strategies of the top experts to upgrade your body, mind, muscle, strength, performance, biochemistry, and how to become the upgraded modern man. Join us on benpakulski.com to learn the cutting-edge techniques to take control of your body, your brain, and create your greatest life.
What's up, guys? Muscle Expert Podcast. I'm sitting here with Brandon Lilly. We've just done a conversation about powerlifting, about life, and transcending the external needs and desires. And we go pretty deep and have a pretty awesome conversation. I know you're going to love it. So go ahead, and if you enjoy it, share. You don't want to listen all the way to the end, and give Brandon a follow on social media. And you can find all of the links to his social, to his websites at benpakulski.com/podcasts. Enjoy the show. What's up, ladies and gents? Ben Pakulski, Muscle Expert Podcast. Brandon Lilly and I just finished a high lactate workout, and we're sitting here. Both of us are spinning a little bit. It's going to be a pretty relaxed, organic conversation about his career as one of the best powerlifters of all time, and now how he's transitioning toward being an all-around epic human being. And we've had some really great conversations over the last couple of days, and hoping just to continue that and give you guys a bit of an insight into this guy's awesome brain and where he's taking his life. Brandon, man, welcome, and thanks for being on the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. More than that, thank you for being in my life. You've been in here my life significantly for, I guess I just feel like we've compacted so much in a couple of days. Yeah. But, you know, the drop in the pond was maybe a month ago, and that was through a couple other friends and connections and whatnot. But I'm so grateful to be here, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, man. So Brandon's been in town for 3 days, and he's kind of had the MI40 deep dive here. He's come to the gym. We've done a couple of morning walks, or one morning walk, did some breakfast and some dinners, and had some really great organic conversation, man. It's given me an amazing insight into your life. Some of the things I don't even know about, man, is like that I'm very curious about is your start into powerlifting. So most people who know you for the Cube method, know you for being one of the strongest guys of all time. Ridiculous all-time totals, ridiculous all-time squats, deadlifts, and maybe most famous of all for the crash on the platform at one of your biggest meets, right? Not to bring that up, but no, a lot of people know you for that. It
is something that needs to be brought up, and it needs to be something that, for me, is celebrated because it was a changing point for my life. Yeah. The literal moment that was, I was a champion lifter. I was strong as could be. I was outwardly everything that everyone in the sport of powerlifting thought, man, I want to be like that guy. Right. And not everybody. And I don't want to sound egotistical, but you know, I was a figurehead within the sport. And from the outside, it looked like, man, this guy's got his shit together. And when that happened, all of that skill, all of that work was just nullified because I didn't know if I would ever be able to walk again.
Man, I don't even want to talk about your career then. That's exactly where I want to go. Like, we can go back and talk about the career, but I want to go exactly there because I think there's a huge lesson to be learned in there, and that the reality that if we're trying to acquire, we're trying to build something on the outside. I'm trying to be stronger. I'm trying to acquire strength. I'm trying to acquire muscle. I'm trying to acquire wealth. The realization that is fleeting, and it can be taken from you in an instant. Whether it be money, whether it be your life, whether it be literally anything, is so important for people to realize in this journey that the only thing that truly matters is what's going on the inside and creating the greatest man on the inside. And I'd love to talk about now how you've taken that catalyst to utilize it for that.
Well, I think I made the mention of the quote, or I don't know if it's a quote or if I said it somewhere along the way, and I quote myself, but I said nobody gets into this stuff because they're the best looking guy. They got 10 million in the bank and a 10-inch dick. I mean, that's the reality of it. I mean, I'm talking about everyone else, of course, you know, but in reality, we all have deep laden insecurities and things that go back maybe deeper or further back than we can understand. And for me, I had built this outward appearance, and I'd built this physique, and I'd built this strength, and I'd done all this stuff, and it was like I was running, and I was trying to fill holes that couldn't be filled. You know, I was trying to fill them with something that wasn't fulfilling.
Outside of yourself.
Yeah, it's like trying to fill a hole with air.
Yeah.
You can work your hind end off, and you can put a lot of air in there, but it's not going anywhere. So my relationships were hollow. My business relationships were hollow. Everything was all around, what can you do for me? And I don't really care what I can do for you, right? And when I fell, I realized very, very quickly that flooded with messages. My phone was going nonstop. But the reality of it was none of them were family. None of them, I mean, there were a couple of friends, like true friends. I actually mentioned Brad earlier,
Yep.
one of my truest friends through this lifetime. And that was a low point, you know, when I realized that I just alienated every single person that cared about me along the way. And maybe if I had taken different steps, would have supported me in everything that I did. I chose the hard way. I chose the way of, I want to push you back. I want to do this my own way, and I want to be bigger than this. I want to be stronger than this. I want to be, like, I was just a crushing person. Everything around me, I was like a storm.
Right. You and I noticed some strange synchronicities over the last couple of days with myself trying to acquire as much muscle as humanly possible, feeling that it's going to allow me to change who I am inside, and realizing that when you get to the top of the mountain, which we both basically achieved,
Yeah.
it's so much more hollow than you realize, and it's so much more lonely than you realize because of all the people you had to alienate along the way. You end up standing at the top of this mountain, and you're like, oh, I'm here. This isn't quite as good as I want.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about the descent of the mountain, right? It's like, okay, now I have to go back and try to acquire all those things that I missed along this beautiful journey on the way up.
Yeah.
I screwed it up. Talk about that a little bit, man. It's like the descent away from this top of the mountain.
So the one thing I want people to really understand, we talked about Everest.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a fascination with Everest since I was a kid, and I don't know why. I've always been drawn to maybe it was just the fact that it was the highest. I don't know, but one of the things I remember studying as a kid, and like I told you, I would go down rabbit holes. I would get encyclopedias, and I would just start funneling as much information as I could. And I remember reading somewhere that 85% of climbers die on the way down.
Mm-hmm.
They'll risk it all to touch that pinnacle, and they'll have that penultimate moment, and it's like, here I am. This is what I came for, but they never get to tell the tale.
Right.
Because they get that peak intoxication where, okay, my oxygen level's here, my food level's here, winds are changing, but there's the top. Have you seen Meru?
No.
The
What? Say it one more time. What's it called?
Meru. It's just like Peru, but
Okay.
with an M.
Okay.
It's a set of climbers that face one of the most challenging. It had never been scaled by man, at least in modern man. And these three guys go on their journey, and they get there, and they're literally, I mean, they have a camera. One of the guys has a GoPro, and they're 300 feet from the top. I mean, and they've scaled this massive facing. It's very, I mean, no one's ever done it. And they're 300 feet from the top, and they're sitting there, and they decide to go back. And climb down was 10,000 times worse than the climb up. And it's their struggle to come back and actually climb it. And that is me. When I saw that documentary, I was on surgery number 14, and I've had 15. I consider 14 because the first one for my right leg was my only, and that was done at the same time as my first one to the left. So I've been in surgery 14 times. I've had 15 surgeries. And when I came out of that one, people will never understand how physically beaten down, broken, and shattered I was. And that's exactly what this documentary relayed to, was these guys, because that was me. Like, I was at the top of the mountain. I'm looking right there. I can see world records. I can see number ones. I can see all of that stuff. And it's like, oh, man, all right, I'm here. What do I do? What do I do now? And then crash.
Mm-hmm.
There was injuries on that mountain. You know, like, guys suffered some terrible stuff. I don't want to ruin it for you, but then they just continued to, like, fret over it and worry about how they could come back. I deadlifted 840, 10 surgeries in. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because I couldn't walk 100 feet, but I could deadlift 840. I'm a great guy, right?
Right.
So I tell myself, I bullshit myself, because that's where the accolades were. That's where the applause was. That's where everyone said, okay, he's back.
You needed
Great.
that pat on the back.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was so far down on myself. And April 12th, 2016, I had a gun barrel in my mouth. And that was a low. It was, the walls were kind of coming in on me. I'd withdrawn myself quite a bit. I had, it was Netflix and chill, except Netflix and just get under the covers and forget the world. But Instagram looked good. Facebook looked good. The gym training videos looked good. Even my competitions looked good. or relatively good. But inside, I was just dying. And after this last surgery, I decided that I was going to go a different path, and I stopped training to hit a number. I just started training for reps, for a feel, that very like spiritual kind of feeling that I had the first time I ever touched a weight.
Yeah.
I was a kid, and I'd been in some trouble at school, and my teacher, he actually gave a shit, and he was like, "Kid, you're kind of getting off path here. Let's do something." So he took me in the weight room, and he just really started helping me and giving me guidance. And I got on a machine. It was a pec deck, and he said, "Just go." I said, "How many reps?" He said, "You'll know." And I just kept going, and I kept going, and man, the tears started coming, the sweat started pouring, and I was working through something, and I remembered that connection so well, and I was instantly hooked. It was my new drug, right? So all my life I've been searching for that feeling, but I wasn't getting it through the training. I was getting it through, oh my God, 800 people like this photo, 820 people like this photo.
I mean, looking at it from a neurochemistry perspective, it's just dopamine, right?
Exactly.
We're all addicted to it.
Exactly. So what did that 820 likes? What did that 1,000 likes? What did those things mean? What did 1,000 pounds mean on the bar? Like, it was no longer that feeling. It was just the acquisition of, just like when you do any kind of drug, it's always good the first time, but when you do it the second time, it's not as fulfilling. You need more. So that's what I kept chasing, was that feeling of, it's a strange thing. Like you said, the highest point of my life as a powerlifter was 2013 Capo, and it sounds insane that it's nearly 5 years ago.
Right.
But raising my arm, saying, you know what, you have the biggest total of the day, you're the strongest guy on this platform, arguably, however you want to work it out, weight classes and so on. But I was just a shell. You know, I was dead. I was a hollow person. I was a liar. I mean, I was just not a good person to anyone in my life.
To talk about that, man, like I experienced something very, very similar where you're so, to become a champion, I think no one will refute that you need laser focus. You need, blinders and the inability to see anything other than the end result. Looking back on it now, do you think you could have become a champion doing it a different way?
See, that's the thing. It's a delicate dance because, people ask, could you have done this without all the drugs you took? Could you have done it without all the insane training that you did? Could you have done it this or that or that? I don't know. I really don't know. But for me at that moment in time, the solace that I've given myself, the forgiveness I've given myself is that I did the best I could at that moment. I chose the best path that I could. And even if it was wrong, I chose with the best set of parameters that I could give myself at the time.
And the greater the obstacle, the greater the opportunity for progress. And maybe you created greater obstacles in your life, which allowed you to be a greater man.
Yeah, and I definitely, obstacles are a common thing in my life. Just because I am as stubborn as a mule, and I used to pride myself on the fact that if I can't figure it out simply, I'll just will my way through it.
Sure.
The bull in the china shop kind of deal. And that's just not how it works. I've been much, much more successful when I've gone with the stream than when I've quit fighting. I mean, I've found success. So it's a delicate balance, like I said, with looking at a kid that has that fire in his eyes and saying, don't do it. Because he's going to dance the dance no matter what you say, just like we were talking about out there, A person will find their answers in their own time. The best thing I can do is just encourage him from my story and say, look, man, I made a lot of mistakes. Yep. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. Try to learn from mine and then make your own.
How necessary is it for someone to go against the tide? And for you, maybe specifically, like, do you think it's an important thing? We talked about this briefly, but do you think it's an important thing for someone to go with the tide? Or do you think in order to be successful, you have to face those struggles? Because inevitably, you and I both chose our own path, and we've accomplished something great. We both faced bigger struggles than perhaps we needed to, but you could also make the argument that that's what made us who we are. And how important is that?
Gosh, I think it's everything. I just saw a fantastic movie, Hostels, and it really it impacted me deeply. It's one of the best movies I've seen in a really, really long time. And what's wild about it, I'll have to tell you, I don't know how much you want to get into it, but Wes Studi, he was Magua in Last of the Mohicans. I told you about the deep connection with that. Full parallel to my life, Wes Studi is now the good guy. Wes Studi was the bad guy in Last of the Mohicans, and he becomes a good guy in a sense. But it is the story of humans will destroy humans, but a man can save a man. And, that's what we talked about, being a fisher of men, being someone who goes out and says, I could be this way forever. I could hide behind it, or I could challenge myself, and I could challenge myself for your sake as well as mine. And we could do this together. And that's what we were talking about, that energy wavelength of being connected without even knowing that we're connected.
Right. Just taking a step outside of yourself and looking back on your life, what caused this inner rebellion?
So I think I told you. I remember being 6 years old. I was at a church camp, vacation Bible school type situation, and I was there with my friends. And the cool thing about that was I didn't know anything about God. I didn't know anything about the universe. I didn't know anything. It was just I was there with my friends, right? So as boys will be boys, some of the guys were following the girls in the bathroom, chasing them around, stuff like that. And the teacher told my mom that I was one of them. And I stood my ground. I said, Mom, it wasn't me. I didn't do that. And my mom was like so downhearted because she felt embarrassed within the church. She felt ashamed that I would, disrespect my teacher. I would disrespect the way I was raised. And that was the worst feeling for me, but she didn't have my back. She didn't believe me. So at 6 years old, I have this disconnect with my parents. Like, they just kind of threw me to the wolves because I got embarrassed at church. I got punished at church, and then I come home and I get punished at home and everything like that. So it's like, it's really me against the world. So I think that was the nucleus, the genesis of my anger towards everything, was the fact that, man, my mom just sold me out. Now, we get along fantastic now, but it was a lot of years where we didn't because of that.
Interesting, man. Walk me through the progression of your training. So you said you started very young in high school.
Yep.
When was it that you kind of got the bug to be a powerlifter? Because I think now's a good time. There's so many young kids out there who are aspiring to be, and if they're not kids, people aspiring to be great powerlifters.
Yeah.
I want to kind of walk down that journey and see if we can give them some true advice from a champion.
So powerlifting has kind of become sexy. It's a sport where some really beautiful people. Steffi was here yesterday.
Yep.
She's a great person. She's a great coach. There are just some people that have come in that are more mainstream than they are counterculture, and there's still a lot of counterculture in there as well. But it's become sexy and it's become fashionable to be super strong, and you can look good and be super strong. So these young kids, they just run to it, and I talk about it a lot. In 08, 09, when I was first on Facebook, the only questions were, how do I get stronger?
Mm-hmm.
You know what the question is now? How do I get sponsored?
Yeah, how do I get more followers?
So when I seek out and I find those kids that really want to get strong, what I tell them is, first, build your base. That's everything that I talk about. Business, family, life, whatever it is, you have to build the base because nothing stands on sand, right? It can all be washed away. So that's not going to come from powerlifting. That's going to come from a good muscular movement stability kind of training. If you go back in time, I always tell people the foundation for me is gymnastics, martial arts, and then athletics. So those three things build a foundation if you're building the perfect child for future powerlifting. Because I've met those people.
Or mostly any endeavor.
Really any endeavor, but I've met champion powerlifters that followed that protocol.
Sure.
3 to 4 years old, they're in gymnastics. 5 to 6 years old, they're in martial arts.
Yep.
6 years old, they're at T-ball.
Yeah.
And I look at them, they move well, they're injury-free, they look great. I mean, Dan Green is one that comes to mind. I don't know if his martial arts was there, but I know he boxed.
Yeah.
So we'll call it a martial art.
Sure. Yeah.
For sure.
Speed and coordination.
Yeah. But you look at him, and he's one of the freakiest physiques and definitely one of the strongest guys in powerlifting ever. So these kids need to slow down from a training standpoint, from a
When you
learning.
say kids, what age are we talking?
30
Yeah.
and down.
Sure. Yeah.
And I don't mean that insultingly. It's just, I see, I was talking to a friend of mine just the other day, and it was a relapse on drugs, and she was 23 and passed away. And it's like, it's a child.
Yeah.
It's a child. I mean,
Sure.
it is surely a child.
Sure.
Because
we were all children before. I mean, yeah.
I think 30 to 32 is a real transitioning point.
Yep.
I'm coming up on 36 now, and I really feel like for the first time in my life, I'm stable ground of who I am. I'm starting to learn from the mistakes. The fog is starting to clear, and I can see more definitely exactly who I am. So if I had just, hey, listen, you're 18 years old and you hear me say this, you're 25 years old and you hear me say this, you're 30 and you hear me say this. Like I said before, you're going to figure it out in your own time, but heed my warning. Slow down. Enjoy the process. Enjoy the training days. Look around who's training with you. See those faces. Talk to them. Take those moments. Because when I look back, some of the best times in my life, gone like that.
Gone, yeah.
And I didn't embrace them. I didn't understand how great they were. Training partners have come and gone, and I used to burn through them because it was like, okay, you got me to this point. You can't get me any higher. Okay,
see you later.
Get out of here.
Same as me.
But this guy loves me.
Yeah.
You know, and that was the thing is like, I didn't think my parents loved me.
Right.
I didn't know how to accept love. I did not know how to accept love. So how do I give love?
Right.
And I learned, I'll talk about that later if you want, but I was terrified of being alone, but I made myself isolated. So
yeah. Yeah.
It's an odd contradiction.
You're speaking of a very similar parallel to the climbing the mountain, right? Is most people are so fixated on the top, they forget to acknowledge the beauty of the journey. And the mountain is the most perfect metaphor. It's like so many people are, they forget about the beauty is in walking up the mountain, man. Sure. It's like every one step in front of the other, the challenges you face, the obstacles you face, the person you become. And like, that's the greatest obstacle you're ever going to face. When you get there, it's the fucking easy part. And then you're going to go, oh, well, what's next? I can't go any higher. So, and that's what people miss. And that's what we both went through in fitness and in life is neglecting to enjoy it. Stop and breathe and smile and go, this is fucking awesome.
It's funny. I think about August 29th, 2013. And the only reason I even know that date is because I've purposely looked it up to tell the story. That if I'm dwindled, my whole life has dwindled down to that day where I was at apex competitor, right? That was my penultimate moment. Fuck, it's a wasted life.
Yeah.
If that's the highest achievement I have, I want to be like, man, my best friend, Brandon, like he cooks this awesome steak. He plays this awesome song on a guitar. He was a champion sometime way back when,
right. But that's only a fraction of who
I
he
want
is.
that to be one part of the story.
Yeah.
And I think for so long you think that it's permanent. It's not permanent. It's a day. It's a moment. For you, it could have been the difference in one sip of water too much, one sip of water too little.
Yeah.
Cramping up on stage versus being completely full and perfect. I mean, we're down to a sip of water. That's what your legacy is down to, is a sip of water.
Yep.
And you think that it's not. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, and even in my head it sounds kind of crazy, but I remember those moments of thinking that if I hit this number, then all of this pain will go away and they'll understand. They'll figure it out. They'll believe me now.
Sure. Now I'm great. Now I'm a champion.
Now I'm a great champion. Now I'm this. Now I'm that. They'll believe my bullshit. Right. They'll see that my lies had purpose, right? Oh, I'll be there at Thanksgiving. No, actually I won't because I'm in the gym doing this, doing whatever. Like, that hurts people. Yeah. Putting people on the back burner when your whole family's there connected and doing something simple and beautiful, and you're putting yourself for this. I could have trained at 6 a.m. and been there. No, I train at 5 o'clock. That's when you eat dinner. Don't insult me. That's when I train.
Right.
And it wasn't, maybe I didn't say it that harshly, but that's the way my head was.
Sure. Yeah, man. Ultimately, we both lived a very similar life of feeling unloved and feeling like I'm going to stick 2 middle fingers up to the world and I'm going to do it myself. And that's a very lonely place to be. And I bet there's thousands of people out there with feelings of inadequacy trying to find it outside of themselves.
Listen, it is absolutely human instinct to compare, to feel insecure. And that's what I used to understand, is that these things that we classify, if insecurity wasn't a word, what would it be? It would just be an emotion, right?
Feeling. Yeah.
It would just be an emotion. Well, let's go one step further. If we didn't label what that weight was, if you didn't know it was 800 pounds, it was 804, what would it be? It would just be heavy.
Just a means of creating tension in my world. For you, it's just like a means of overcoming something.
It's heavy.
Yep.
So our body understands struggle. Our body understands ease. Our body understands comfort.
Yep.
And when I start looking at all these things, when I look at my naked body, I have some discomfort. But if I can do things, or if I can surround myself with people that bring me comfort and make me feel better about myself as a whole, that's just a feeling. Mm-hmm. So I've gone away from these like clear declarations of this is what you are. No, I'm not. You can't box me in. And that still is my two middle fingers up to the world in a way, but
you're a river, you're a flowing river that's constantly changing, right? This might be what you picture right now, but at any point in the future, if you decide to change that and you let go of, hey, this is who Brandon was and this is who I'm going to become, then you're just a flowing river, man.
Yeah, and I used to think that was a lot of bullshit, but I've been here 2 or 3 days now. I am different.
Yeah.
And I am angry that I'm not more different.
Right.
Not angry, but you know what I mean? It's like,
but you see an opportunity, right?
Yeah. And that's so perfect example. Yesterday we had some friends down in Miami and it was like, okay, Miami's 4-hour drive.
Why am I doing this?
Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
No, I know exactly why I'm doing
exactly.
this. So these people are down here. We'll have a great conversation. We'll have a great dinner. I'll introduce myself to a few new people, maybe make some contacts. Maybe I don't, but I'm there with people who've invested in me as a friend. Like, these people are so far beyond me business-wise. Right. They're so far beyond me in their interpersonal connections. And I look at Jay. I speak at Jay quite a bit. I look at him, and he's always got awesome people around him.
Great people, yeah.
But what's he doing? He's bringing more people in.
Yep.
I was pushing people away
right.
because I was like, if you get too close, you might find out what's real. Now you see a guy like Jay who has full transparency, who is fully open, loves his wife, loves his dog, has his podcast, has his training, but he's like, how can I make you better? How can I make you better? The most selfish thing about Jay is other people. He wants to selfishly make you as best as you can possibly be.
Yep.
That's the best way to be selfish.
It's a beautiful thing because now I'm choosing the people I get to surround myself with, and I'm making them better. They make me better, and which is just this self-perpetuating.
Well, it's like you said. I'm not good at media. What do? You
right.
get a media guy,
sure.
And it's not because, hey, you're a media guy, I want you to be my media guy. It's we get along pretty good.
Yeah.
What do you do? Oh, you do media? Right. Awesome. I suck at media.
Yeah. We should be friends.
We should be friends, even better friends. But it just. When you're on the right path, and we use these terms, and it's like journey, path, whatever, they become cliche, but it really is. Like, I can clearly look back over my life, and I can see a timeline. I can see a steady progression of where I had people all around me. I've always had good people around me. And the one thing I told Jay yesterday was he always gets on me about my words and how I use them and structure sentences about self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Yep.
So I keep talking about, like, I don't need more money because I don't think of things in terms of money. Like, if I could exist in a world without money, bring it on.
Hey guys, I interrupt this podcast to bring you a note from our sponsor, ATP Labs. And one of my favorite pre-workout products is called eNOS. 5 ingredients designed to optimize your pump. The typical things you're going to hear about and some that you're not familiar with. This is one of the best products on the market for increasing blood flow to the muscle, improving recovery, improving pump. So if you want to check it out, atplab.com. You can use the code BEN10 for 10% off eNOS or anything else you like on the website. Enjoy the rest of the show. For 20 years, man, you built up this armor to protect you.
Yeah.
And you built up an external perception of what you are and probably an internal belief about what you are.
Well, go ahead, finish. I'm sorry.
I want to ask about how you've started the journey toward getting rid of the ego, getting rid of, I know I'm living this life, the fear of letting other people in, the fear of being loved, the fear of connecting with other people. I know it's still great because that's why we both built up this armor, mm-hmm. right? The fear of letting other people close. If I'm this big guy, I have this perception of I'm impervious to anything, right? You can't fucking penetrate this.
Yep.
So how are you starting the journey of letting that go? Because I know there's millions of guys out there living that, man.
So my journey is one that I think anyone can learn from. I don't necessarily think it's the path for everyone, but like I said, I always dabbled with drugs. I always tried different things, and it was just I've always had the idea of, sure, why not? That's mm-hmm. always kind of been a motto of mine, sure, why not? So I started with weed, of course, like most everyone else, and then I got into some shrooms and different things like that. But I was always doing it to escape. I was always doing it to just forget, numb, whatever it was. And I don't want to portray myself as like this drug-laden person, because there are people out there that are really suffering from this.
Sure.
I was just, hey, I'm at a party and there's some stuff here. Let's do it. Like I guess I was a very social drug user. And it's not something I'm ashamed of. It's not something I'm proud of. It's just something that was. And I started realizing that there was a strong disconnect there because I was using something to get away from who I was. What if I used it to find out who I was? What if I use this as a journey to understand myself better? Because when you're on a mushroom high or a mushroom trip, you really start to see some stuff. And I'm not talking about the visuals. I'm talking about within yourself. You kind of tear down some walls. And I think in that subconscious mind, it was strong enough to fight the ego. But really, the ego is just an equal to opposite reflection of your insecurity.
Yep.
So you have to build this exterior. You have to build this voice. And actually, I have a friend who talked about my tattoos. He asked me, when did you get your tattoos? And I was like, in bursts. And he said, well, let's look at your Facebook. Let's go back and see. And I could remember times, and I would get tattooed when I was really suffering. Like I was feeling a lot of pain. And he said, so your physical pain of the tattoo ink or the needle was a representation of the pain inside. I said, I don't know. He's like, did you ever feel like you just wanted to disappear? Yeah. Okay. Well, you just painted yourself away. You painted yourself into something that you weren't.
Yep.
Holy shit. Like, that's a pretty kick in the balls.
Yep.
It's like I wanted to disappear. So I literally made myself disappear. Not that I don't love my tattoos. Not that they don't tell a story. I'm very proud of them. And it's kind of like I wear them as scars now. It's like it's a war paint, and I don't want to insult anyone over that because everybody's so touchy over words. But this is a story of my life, and I got these tattoos for different things and different meanings. But when he said that, it really made me look at this. All right, let's go deep. Let's figure something out about yourself. You're obviously a person who runs. You run from yourself. You run from people. You run from love. You run from everything. Let's go find it. So I went on what they call a hero's dose of mushrooms, and I started finding myself. And it's an unconventional way. I think it's a very historically accepted way for many cultures, but our culture, our society, has kind of looked down upon this. But for me, without it, I don't think I would have broken the cycle of who I was. It really allowed me to tear down that wall, to just face myself and to understand that I am just a part of something. I'm not the thing. I'm just a part of something.
How important were your struggles, or are your struggles right now, in allowing you to look introspectively?
It's everything, because without struggle, what do you gain? Like it's just like a stimulation of a muscle. If you don't require it to grow, will it grow? No. So for me, probably got the best workout for life ever, because I've really put myself through the ringer, and I used to have self-loathing, and I used to have, the suicidal thoughts and all that stuff, but it was all laden in guilt. And like I said, the step to forgiveness was, I don't want to get too into it, but when I had the first really psychedelic trip where I was searching for myself, I had a Native American in my vision, and he had war paint on his face, and that's why I used the term war paint about my tattoos. But he had a handprint on his face, and he literally took it off his, and he said, "You've lost your warrior spirit." He said, "Go, find it." And in his hand, that was a war paint on his face, was put on mine, and he said, "Go find your warrior spirit." And that was the beginning of my journey, and I've been going ever since.
That's pretty great, man. I think a lot of people would love to hear about, kind of pulling us off track here a little bit, but I think a lot of people would love to hear about the journey of getting over the obstacles of training, because, like you talked about, man, the biggest journey that you mentioned to me, and there may be other ones, but the biggest one you mentioned is the journey from going from geared lifting to raw lifting.
Sure.
And you were kind of the first guy, the first guy that I know to say, like, hey, I'm really not that strong. I just learned how to use this gear really well.
Well, and to respect anybody that's in gear, I think it's fair to say if you're a drag car driver, you're supposed to go fast.
Sure.
So being in a
skill for sure.
Yeah, and it became more of a skill acquisition than it became a strength acquisition for me. There are some guys. Obviously, I did have some carryover to strength, but the numbers that I looked at were literal. I can't hide from what happens. So at 19 years old, I was in a drug tested federation, 219 pounds. I squatted 300 kilos. It's 661. So fast forward a decade, 308 pounds, juiced out of my mind. Just squatted 1,008 pounds. So me, the guy, well, at 19 and drug free, I did this. So obviously, I'll probably do like a 4-week raw cycle and squat 800. So I began week 1, and I think I'm going to work up to like 700, go 725 the next week, 750, work my way up through to 800. I got to 600 pounds and it buried me. Like it absolutely buried me. And that showed me that I was too reliant on my skill set within the gear. I started out picking up a weight to what? Be strong. And the gear, where again, I got the applause, I got the recognition, I got that. I ran to that. I alienated everything that I knew, which was
human nature, man.
Which was strength training, which was the foundation, the base. And I went to what got me the good feeling, the dopamine, right?
Sure.
So I was like, no, man, that's not it. That's not what I'm doing this for. I really feel like a pussy. So I wrote about it. I talked about it. I was honest about it. And that called into question some other people. Well, if he's not this strong, oh my God, that means I'm not this strong.
Right.
Or that means that guy's not that strong. So there was this whole kind of ripple effect, and I don't want to paint myself over as more than I am, but I was just a guy that got real honest real quick. And it the literal numbers forced my hand, and when I talked about it, I think that made people uncomfortable. I think it called some things into question, and I think it challenged people to look at themselves and say, either I'm going to challenge him and say, fuck that guy, or I'm going to look at it and say, am I a liar too? Mm-hmm. Am I telling myself the lie? So no disrespect to anybody that does gear, because I think if you look as a whole, gear has been around as long as powerlifting. I mean, it was brought in as a safety mechanism, right? To keep guys safe and protected. But just like anything else, you're going to tweak it as much as you can, and you're going to get as much out of it as you can. And then it came into multiply, where it's just like assholes and elbows, man. Sure, just go as far as you can go.
Yep.
So it was just, for me, I just needed to get away from it, because even then I was wrestling with this idea of who I was and what I wanted to be and what I wanted to represent. And at that point in time, I had accomplished quite a bit in geared powerlifting. I mean, I'd trained at the greatest gyms. I'd trained with the greatest people. I'd hit a 2,500-pound total, which at that time was, that was not too far off the world record. It was a good pace, but it wasn't too far off. And now I'm on this journey of, let's get as strong as I possibly can like this. If I'm just as I am, how strong am I? Mm-hmm. So that started me out in the raw, and for whatever reason, I'd based myself there when I was 19, so I reacclimated pretty quickly, as the body usually does.
Yep.
And so it looked like, man, this guy just, once he took the gear off, he just started getting stronger. And I think, had that story happened now, I'm just a fish in the sea. My story doesn't connect. My training doesn't connect. I'm just, like I said, I'm just a guy. But at that point in time, it wasn't like I was like, if I go this direction, everybody will follow. It was like, I'm just going over here to find myself. Like, I've been searching for myself for a long, long time.
That's the reason you started powerlifting, man.
Yeah, I started powerlifting trying to find myself, because I was a skinny kid and I wanted to be a little bit bigger, because I thought at 185 pounds, that was bigger than where I was.
Sure.
And that would make the girls like me. Mm-hmm. That would get the bullies off me,
Yep.
Well, it didn't.
Right.
So it must be 200 pounds. No, wait, it's 210.
Right.
No, it's 340.
Right.
And there's no number big enough.
Even at 340, there was still a kid under there that was insecure as F and didn't want to tell anybody about it.
Well, and just like I said before, man, I thought at some weight, it's going to make sense. Just like at some total, everybody's going to forgive me. Everybody's going to understand. No, what you're really doing is you're just getting further and further away from the reality of it. And so as I started getting stronger myself, I started talking about it, and then that's where the two middle fingers come back into play. So I'm going to train raw. I'm going to go to the biggest, or one of the biggest, I think it was the biggest at the time, meet of the year. I'm going to put my gear back on, but I'm not going to train in it at all. And I'm going to show you guys what's up. And I hit the biggest total of my life. The biggest total of my life by far. over 100-pound PR, and I haven't been in my gear once. And I'm like, there you go, motherfuckers. Like, train raw,
Right.
get strong, and then put the gear on and see what happens. Like, I'm not telling you not to take the gear or to keep the gear on. I'm telling you to get strong. I got stronger and I came back. That won me some praise and that won me some foes.
Sure, that's life.
So I think I could have gone about it in a much more respectful way, looking back to the guys that have
But
been.
you wouldn't have got as much recognition.
I probably wouldn't be.
It's always a weight, man.
Yeah.
One way or the other, right?
But I didn't do it with ill intention.
Right.
I did it with trying to solidify myself as like, man, I'm worth something to myself, when really it didn't mean anything.
Right. Yeah. No matter who's out there trying to be a bodybuilder or a powerlifter, it's never about the total. It's never about the victory, man. It can't be, because once you get it, it just goes. The second it happens, it's gone, and you're the only one that gives a shit. Because humans only care about themselves, and that's a reality, right?
Yeah.
So, I think the biggest lesson for both of us, man, is breathe and smile when the process gets hard, because that's your opportunity.
And you know what? It's funny. Louis, who was my nemesis, who has become a very, very impactful mentor in a lot of ways to me. He shaped my training for 20 years. He was the guy that I aspired to be like. I saw the Powerlifting USA magazines. All the top dogs were at Westside. I wanted to be one of his pit bulls. I wanted to be one of those.
Talk about why he was your nemesis, man.
Because of my ego.
So that was before you'd met him?
Yeah, because he's just an old man. Like,
yeah,
he gave me the lessons, but I'm going to kick his ass.
So you didn't actually know him at this time?
No.
Right.
But coming to find out, he wanted me to be his nemesis.
Right.
Because if I'm not there to beat him, why the fuck am I at his gym?
See you there, yeah.
So I go in there, and he tells me to do this. I'm going to do anything but that.
Right.
I'm in his gym. Like, this is one of the smartest guys in training in the world, in the number one powerlifting gym in the world, and I'm doing everything but what he tells me to do. Hey, train in the morning crew. No, I'm going to train with the night crew. Do this set. No, I'm going to do that set. Do this, do that, do that. it sounds really, really strange, but
no, man, I get it.
Yeah,
challenge.
But he let me fall. He let me fall on my face, and he told me at one point in time, he said, "This is a man's world, and you'll figure that out one day." And he said, "You got to be a man to stand like a man." And he said, "You're standing like a boy."
Wow.
And he told me that. And he said, all you want to do is you want to put yourself out there. You want to be big and get in front of these people and say this and say that. He said, I just want to fucking disappear. He said, I just want to be over here and I just want to meditate. I was like, what? Well, you wrote these books and you have this gym and you do all this. He said, I did all that so I can do this.
Yes.
And like,
beautiful.
I get it. I get it now. Yeah. I thought he was full of shit then. And that's why I hated him, because it's like, you're a liar. Mm-hmm. You're full of shit, Lou. No, he was the most honest man I've ever met. And it all starts back. I had squatted 750 pounds. There's some meme out there that somebody made. I said, everybody can be the king of the hill in their backyard, but there's somebody out there climbing Everest. Mm-hmm. And that was me. I had squatted 750 pounds. I'm puffed up chest. I'm a top dog. I go to breakfast with Louis, and he said, what do you weigh? I was 269. We squat. 750. This was gear. He said 750. He said, "Oh, I got a woman squat 750, 181. You're gonna have to do some work." And I was so mad, but it was honest. Yeah. He wasn't lying. It's numbers are numbers. There it is. Like, you're either gonna do what you have to do, or you're gonna not. And he tells the story of a Shogun's assassin. He said, "Some will choose the ball, some will choose the sword, and if you choose the sword, it's a battle for hell." And I chose the sword, and I'm proud of that. Like, for a long time, I thought all my mistakes were just another manifestation of more and more and more mistakes, but they're the foundation that I built myself on. So I'm really proud of that, and I have scars, I have tails, I have people that point their fingers at me and have judged me and whatnot. But guess what? I've judged myself harsher, more critically, and more deeply than anybody could ever judge me. I've been so far deeply inside myself and forgiven myself that no one can touch me. And that's not an arrogant statement. It's a completely freeing statement.
Yep.
And all I want to say to somebody that judges me harshly or judges me critically, get to know me.
Sure.
If you know me through a post, or you know me through a meme, or you know me through my book, or you know me
Right.
through anything, and you don't like me, come find me.
Dude, even before that, get to know yourself.
Yeah.
Say to them, get to know yourself first, because the only reason anyone would ever place judgment on you is a reflection of themselves. And I completely believe that. And people sometimes, my followers get mad at me for how nice I am to people online. I'm like, why am I going to be mean to this guy?
Right.
He's a dick to me, but that's just a reflection of him. It's not a reflection of me.
I had this conversation with Mark down at Anatomy. He said, when you have a client that comes in, and he was talking about, he said, when I'm trying to inspire my coaches, he said, and they have a client that comes in, he said, he doesn't do anything I say, he doesn't do anything. He's like, no, he's training you. Because if he's a difficult client, he's the very person you need to hone yourself with.
Exactly.
Iron sharpens iron. He's not iron. He is, but he doesn't know it.
Right.
He's making you a better coach because it's your job to fix him, right?
It's exactly what we were talking about this morning. These people find us to allow us to sharpen our swords, man.
Right.
Like, and whoever it is, in whatever situation it is, it could be a relationship, it could be anything. And you're like, hey, man, there's something I need to learn from this. And if you can change your perspective toward relationships and people that come into your life, rather than screw this person, they're dragging me down, and flip their perspective to what do I need to learn to get better? That's a powerful place to be, man. And it's just a growth opportunity, right? You smile at the hardest, most challenging situation, and you go, I need to learn something here. It's like being under 700 pounds. If I fail today, smile, because you're not good enough yet. But if you work your ass off, maybe tomorrow you can be good enough.
It's Jocko Willink has that quote, good. You know, he said, oh, we didn't get funded for this mission. Good. You know, guy got hurt. Okay, good. He can train harder. He can train smarter. We got more time, you know, and that's
somebody was wearing that shirt yesterday. I'm like, why does that say good? I don't get it. I've never heard that.
But dude, it's powerful, you know. And when you start looking at everything as an opportunity rather than a hindrance, life takes on a different shape. And when you look at people as this could be something, this could be a catalyst rather than an argument. You know, we could both get better here, or at least I can get better. I can't judge how you leave this conversation,
right?
But I can tell you, I'm going to leave it better, because if I can't answer your question in a respectful way, I need to learn. And if I can't control my emotion to answer your question in a respectful way, I need to check that.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly, it's just like a sponge. I'm constantly looking at how I, you know, associate with people, how I interact with people, how I engage with people. Because if you really look at it, that's all we are. It's just a constant flow of connection with people. And if you connect positively with people, it's going to be really challenging to have negativity come from that. If you and I have a great conversation, I'm not going to leave here and say, man, this day fucking sucks. Right. If we have a great conversation, I'm going to be like, this is a good day. And then I'm going to go out here and I'm going to train a little better. Like, by the way, I'm dead. If you have any hesitations or thoughts about ever getting down here, man, I think that's a little bit why I'm kind of spaced out right now. Is it was a really powerful thing, and it's given me a deeper appreciation for you as a person just through training. We weren't talking, and that's a connection I would have never honed in on before. But I think there's opportunities in every single situation that you have. I try to be a grateful person. I try to be a forward-paying person. You know, so I talk about this a lot, and I know I'm kind of jumping around, but each morning I start out with 3 things I'm thankful for the day before. Like, what are 3 things? And they're never the big things. It's somebody that smiled at me. It's somebody that held a door for me, or it's a conversation that I had that was meaningless, but somebody took the time. You know, I talk about my tattoos a lot. I had an old lady in a parking lot, and she was struggling with her bags. So I helped her, and she said, you know what? Of everybody that walked by here, you're the last one I would have thought would have helped me. And I said, why is that? She said, well, you got them thuggy tattoos. And I said, really? And she said, yeah. She said, but I started telling her about them. I talked about my roses, which are all times or people that I've lost in my life, and I got a lot of roses. And I started talking about more, and the one for my son. And she said, oh, that's kind of neat. She said, I might get myself a tattoo. And I mean, she's like 70-something years old, you know. But 70 years of her life, she's been afraid or intimidated or misunderstanding of a tattoo. Like, she labeled a person as that. She labeled me as that.
Sure.
She told me, she thanked me because she wasn't going to be that same ever again. And I wasn't going to be that same, you know? Like,
it's fear, right? Like, you associate it with whatever you have in your brain, and you have a fear.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was one of those small moments, and that's been one of the, like, that's nothing in the scope of my life.
Right.
That moment, I mean, and you're going to call bullshit, and if you're listening, don't call bullshit, because listen to what I'm saying. That to me was more significant than when I won the capo.
Yeah.
Because I changed a person's life. A capo didn't change my life. It didn't change anybody else. It didn't impact you. It didn't. You might have saw a cool YouTube video or something like that. But this is a lady who had 70 years shook when I was nice to her. I've never had a bad interaction or it felt bad leaving a situation when I was nice. And for a lot of years, I was never nice. And now I can't help but be nice.
Right.
So because I gained from it. In every single situation, a smile, a courtesy, just simple things that are lost on each other because we're so busy in ourselves, we're so busy on our phones. Human connection is the central point for everything for me.
Talk about what you're doing now. So you've obviously left powerlifting, and you've transitioned toward running, of all things, and rowing. And why?
So the rowing, kind of like I told you before, I'm really good at running towards stuff I'm good at and running away from stuff that I'm bad at. So the rower was a physical calculator of how far I've gone, how much effort I've expended. The screen calculates all that for you. So I could get on there and I could just free row because there's one that just says just row.
Just row.
Right?
Yeah.
I could get on there, I could do that. Or I could select my workout.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's not how I need to operate. I need to operate in the context of something ridiculous. So a half marathon sounds
Ask yourself why, though.
Well,
what do you like? You're seeking something, which could be good, but do you ever ask yourself why?
Yeah, because I know that I gain from those challenges.
Yeah.
I just like putting weight on a bar and accomplishing that, it propels me to the next feat, and it propels me to the next feat. And for a lot of times, it was athletic accomplishment, but now it propels me deeper within myself. Like a rower is not over in a second.
Sure.
Like you're going to go through some hell.
Oh, yeah.
You do a half marathon, 13 miles on a rower, you're going to get in some places that you probably never expected.
But you don't do anything called with a half in the name, right?
No, we'll get to that point. So for 7 days, I did a half marathon for 7 straight days.
Oh, wow.
And it was challenging, and I don't know why, but on the 8th day, I know why I did it on the 8th day because I was like, nobody sets out to do anything by half.
Right.
Like, who starts something that's half in the title, right? So I did the marathon, and that just the way that it worked out for me is I always tried to rehabilitate myself, counter to what the physical therapist said, counter to what the doctor said. I want to get under a squat bar. Well, I do 10 sets of squats, 6 to 8 reps. That's 80 reps. I get on a rower for 60 minutes, 30 strokes a minute. That's 1,800 knee bends. So obviously this is very therapeutic for my knee, but it's therapeutic for lots of other things too. So I was like, man, this rower is really impacting me. It's helping me. So I started cycling some. I got on a air assault. 30, 40 miles on that was too easy. So I was like, if you go back and look at seminars that I gave, I'll never be able to run again. I'll never be able to do this stuff again, because that's what I was told. That's what I believed it. It hurt when I ran. It hurt when I tried to go more than just a walk.
Hell yeah.
I still limp. I mean, even today, I still limp. But again, that's one of those things I'm proud of. Like, I earned that limp, and I'll probably earn some more things. But I started walking. I walked 2 miles. And at the point that I got to 2 miles, I was 2 miles from my truck. So this is 2 mile trek has turned into a 4 mile trek. Mm-hmm. And then it's like, well, I just walked 2 and I'm living, breathing, okay. What if I jogged it? I can jog 10 feet and find out I failed. I can jog 100 feet and find out I failed. Let's just see how far this goes. So I got back to my truck, and I actually made the video of it. I was kind of being overcome with emotion. I said, look at that big, beautiful white ass, because my truck's white, It's like, look at that big, beautiful white ass. So, but I knew I could keep going. Mm-hmm. So the next day I was like, let's go 3. And it felt good. So the next day I was like, let's go 5. Let's go 7. Let's go down the rabbit hole as far as we can freaking go. So I go 10.
No extreme personality
No,
whatsoever.
not at all. Hey, let's do it.
It is what it is, yeah.
So 10 miles, I've accomplished that feat. I'm pretty proud of myself, and but it's really just like shedding a skin. Like you use that terminology, and I've bound myself to these chains for years and years and years of I can't run because it'll diminish my workout effect. I can't do this because I'm a big guy. Blah blah blah. I find out I can. Holy shit! There's no stopping me now.
Right.
So I get up and I text my coach, Bunky. He's one of my, if on a Mount Rushmore of men in my life, he's right up there. And I text him. I said, "I'm about to do something crazy, coach." And he's my 7th grade coach, and he's been like, this is a guy I've had physical altercations with, because he called me on my shit. I needed that. I needed to push somebody to the limit to where they punch back.
Right.
So the last time I think I texted him that was when I thought about killing myself, and I didn't think about killing myself because I was so distraught. It was more for my son. I was disconnected from him. I wasn't seeing him the way that I was. I wasn't being the father I thought I should have been. So I thought, you know what? He deserves to think I'm a coward rather than I didn't try. Because if I didn't try, then I really failed. I would rather him think that I was just a coward and I got out. That's not really the way to go about it, But that's where my headspace was. I was examining all options, and I took it about as far as you could go. And I just decided that no. Just like anything else, you work through it. You figure it out. You dig in like a man. You stand like a man, and you be a man. So fix that, whatever. But back to the run. So I started out, and I was going to do a half marathon. And, I texted my coach, and I just told him I'm going to do something crazy. So, he wakes up in California freaking out because he doesn't know what this means. But I'm 16 miles in on this run. And again, I'm real dumb in that I run halfway away from where my truck is.
Sure.
And then I turn around.
No Ubering back?
No. Well, my hand hovered the Uber twice. And it was like, I went back to that thing. Nobody starts something with half in the title.
Right.
I'm going all the way. But that Uber looked pretty appealing because I'd already gone further than I'd gone further than the half.
It's so easy to rationalize it, right?
Good enough.
Yep.
Good enough is the death of greatness.
Yep.
So, but I'll tell you what this man did. He got on the phone with me and he willed me through the next 10 miles.
Oh, wow.
And that has been him. He's willed me through my life.
Yeah.
And when I get kind of emotional talking about it, but as a 7th grade kid playing basketball with no talent, just a lot of heart, he taught me that was something. So I think I chased that a lot through my training, through my life, just thinking that I could outwork stuff. I saw him go through all these changes that we're on right now. I thought, man, this guy's a pussy. Like the hardest man I ever met is soft. Well, some of you probably have that assumption about me now, but I'm proud of that. But yeah, it's through that softness that you really find how much you can bend. You find out how much you can give. And in that 26 miles, I rationalized exactly how far a mile is. I really understand how far a mile is. Because in my daily life, I drive 40 miles to the gym.
Right.
It's nothing. It's my day. It's part of my process. When you're on the ground pounding a 10, 12, 13-minute mile like I am, a mile's a fucking long way.
Yep.
26 miles is forever. And I found that out when I was trying to navigate my routes around town and everything. It's like, do I have to really keep going? Is this really happening right now? But it's just a quest to find out, am I still fighting? I'm giving so much and I'm so accepting, but I still got to have a little bit of fight in me. But I'm fighting within myself. But it's not a battle anymore. It's just kind of like I'm digging. I'm just digging a little deeper every time I go.
The layers of the onion, right? It's like peeling back the layers.
Yeah, and I think it's just turning the battle around and realizing that it's not against the world, it's against yourself. Yep. And then when you've conquered yourself to a degree, the rest of the world kind of takes care of itself. You don't pay attention to the things that don't matter. You don't pay attention to the people that don't really have a voice in your life. You start looking at the people 6 inches in front of your face. You start thinking about, wow, we just had 2 hours of conversation and I didn't check my phone.
Yep. Those
are the types of situations that I'm desperately running towards, and I find out more about myself so that I can share more of myself in an honest way.
Yeah, I always say that the day you're okay with being by yourself is the day you'll find great people.
Yeah, I met a guy yesterday that went on a 10-day silent meditate. Mm-hmm. No books, no nothing. You don't make eye contact. You don't have it's a kind of silence.
Not even books.
No books.
I thought normally they're allowed to take books.
No books.
That'd be interesting.
No journaling. No nothing. Truly spiritual. Like,
where was it?
Washington State.
Okay.
10 days. No talking.
I'd be in for that. I was trying. There's one in Bali that a guy just a friend of mine was just in town, Chris Duffy. He was telling me he just went 7 days in Bali, and I was like, let's go do that, dude. I'm in for that.
Yeah. Well, we've even talked about that. You know, just getting a group of people that you love and care about, and not just in a level of, oh, I care about you, buddy. Like, no, I see this person growing and developing. I want to latch onto that and grow and develop in my own way.
Because we'll challenge each other, right?
Sure.
That would be the beauty.
We're high achievers.
Yeah.
And man, I feel like this podcast has gone all over the place, but it's good because I think people need to understand. I'm so far removed from I look at videos of myself 4 years ago, 5 years ago. I'm like, oh my God. But I was selling myself on my own bullshit. Like, even still, if I talk about something on Instagram, or if I'm channeling an emotion, I'm really telling myself the message. I'm really confirming that with myself. I'm not. You're
learning it deeper, right? Yeah.
I'm not sitting here from the top of the mountain and saying, "Hey guys, I know it all." It's more like, "Hey guys, I'm just trying to figure my shit out," And I think that's the best we can do in this life, is just understand that, there is no rule book, there is no right and wrong. As long as you're in the constraints of, I won't hurt you and you don't hurt me. I just want to grow. I just want to grow myself. I just want to grow this relationship. I want to grow you. And I think as long as you're respectful of those boundaries.
Man, as a man, so you're talking about getting soft. That's one of the most important things you have to do, the quote unquote getting soft, to allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to let those other people into your life to actually help you deal with those problems. Because we've been building the shell, man, to keep everybody out. I don't want you to see my problems. I don't want you to see the shit that's inside me.
Yeah.
And to be vulnerable enough to allow a group of people, whether it be a wife or a friend or whoever, into your life deep enough so that they're actually able to help you with those problems is perhaps the hardest thing most people are going to face.
Well, it's like, you look at my Instagram right now, and I know we've gotten away from powerlifting on this conversation, but you look at my Instagram, there's no lifting. People question me all the time, why aren't you showing your lifting? Why aren't you showing lifting? Well, it's easy for me to sit there and make this a billboard for what I'm good at.
Right.
Let me show you what I suck at, and let me connect with you, because do you know how many messages I get every day saying, hey, man, I got out there and I ran a mile. First mile I've run in 5 years.
Yep.
I rode 5,000 meters. I never rode before. I didn't get those in lifting. I didn't get, hey, man, I did for a time, but I feel like I kind of had my impact on that. And if I can maybe pull a guy like myself and say, hey, man, come this direction, come this. Or if I can just find somebody that happens along my Instagram page for whatever and say, look, man, just get off the couch and change your life.
Man, I think the beauty of walking and running is not even the act itself. It's the fact that you're outside.
You're outside.
You're connecting with nature, man.
I have never been able to do a treadmill. I've never.
Oh, no.
It's really strange. The thing for me with the rower is that I watch the screen.
Yeah.
Some people don't watch the screen, but I do. And I don't. I did one row with a movie on in the background, and I didn't do well with it because I was like going back and forth. I like that visual of watching it count down, because it's like I'm just working through it. And that's for me on a walk outside, is I can see my destination, and I'm going to get there. Like, it's just one more step. And like I said, when I started out on the marathon, I literally cleared 24 hours of my schedule to do this. It's a 1 mile an hour plus minus pace. I can crawl that.
Right.
I'm going to finish this fucking race.
Right.
I'm going to do 26.2 miles, hell or high water, just because I need to prove to myself that my body is capable of doing this. I read an article that morning about a guy that solo crossed Antarctica. I'm like, he did 1,000 miles.
Yep.
So that's what, and I talk about this guy. I mean, I fanboy this guy a lot.
Sure.
That Cam Haynes. He's a guy that I was introduced to through Rogan's podcast, and I actually got to meet him. I do not want to misrepresent that we're friends, in any kind of way. We're best friends on my terms, but he doesn't know that. But in reality, I got to meet him, and we've exchanged some messages and stuff. But this guy, it's like a marathon a day. He shoots his bow. He loves his family. He's doing all this stuff, and I'm like, if this guy is pushing this hard, and squeezing every ounce out of every second, you think about how fast life goes by. It's because you're not dialed in. When you're dialed in, those seconds matter. It's just like the mile. I know how long a mile is because I'm walking it.
Right.
I'm running it. When you're in your truck, they just click by, right? And you miss them. I'm not going to miss that mile on my feet.
Beautiful. And I bet just like us, Cam Haynes is struggling, man. I think like we see him, man, he's running a marathon days. He's got this great family. There's something he's struggling with. Just
I
like
can tell you,
else,
I can
right?
tell you 100% what it is, and I mean this with the most respect for this guy. He talks about it on his Instagram, so it's transparent, and that's what's beautiful about him. When I met him, he was genuine, and he's passionate.
Yep.
And those two things are high qualities. Be real and be passionate about
Yep.
something. But he lost his friend. He lost his best friend on a hunt, and he was on a hunt, and his best friend was on a particular hunt, and he passed away. And he got to celebrate a hunt that day in honor of his friend, and I think he's running for his friend. I think he's motivated by the loss of his friend.
Mm-hmm.
He was highly motivated before, but I think he's just like he's next level now. And I think to Roy, which is Cam's best friend's legacy, Cam has transcended. And man, you saw he's touching 500,000 people's lives or more every single day. And I've never seen that guy he has his moments where he protects hunting because he loves it. He protects gun laws because he believes in the rights of the Constitution. But every single message, have a great day. Smile on his
That's all
face.
that matters, man.
And it's like, do something more.
Right.
Go one more step, spend a little more time, whatever it is, just do it a little better.
Stop looking outside of yourself and look. Yeah. Dude, so, man, I know we've been having a great conversation, but I don't want to keep you too much longer. Let's talk about just like, what's that one piece of advice that you could give, whether it's an aspiring powerlifter, whether it's an aspiring athlete, whether it's just some guy who's sitting at home struggling with his life, and maybe he's at that point where he's about to do something crazy or whatever, man. Like one piece of advice you can give to anybody that would help them live a greater life.
I think Craig Ballantyne touches on it, and he said, "What is the movie of your life?"
Yeah.
He said, "If every day that you lived was a movie, would you want to watch it?" Okay, you have the constraints of a job, you have the constraints of this or that, but you can do those things in a spectacular way. You can do them in a way that is crafted and prideful. You weren't there, I'm sorry, but there was a guy that was at a food truck, and I had a moment with him away from the food truck. He was actually smoking a joint, and I was just sitting there talking to him, and he was like, "Man, I love my job." He said, I get to see people every day. I get to cook food. I get to get my hands dirty."
Wow.
And I was like, there's somebody here that's making $6 an hour,
Yeah.
$7 an hour, whatever it is. I don't even know. And they hate it. And then here's a guy that's making $7, $8 an hour that absolutely goes all in and loves it. He's like, because of this food, people appreciate me. And I was like, that's all you need, man.
What a beautiful perspective.
And he's like, he's been in high restaurants. He's been all over. And he's like, I'm in a food truck in Miami, and he's like, the beach is right there. You're right here. I'm right here, and there's the sunset. Remember it. And I'll never forget that guy.
Wow.
I'll never forget that guy. So those things, like, that's a pretty damn good movie.
Find beauty in simplicity, right?
Yeah. So if I can tell you anything, wherever you are, in the depths of despair, debt, negativity, adultery, whatever it is, if you took 1,000 steps to get there, it's going to take 1,001 to get down. It's going to be hell. You have to recognize that. It's going to be hell. But just start changing. Just start taking one step at a time. That's the only way to conquer a marathon. It's the only way to get under a set and finish a set is one rep at a time.
Mm-hmm.
1 minute at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 month at a time, 1 year at a time. Just start clicking those things off. Don't look at how far you have to go. Just look right in front of your face.
One step.
Yeah.
It's the marathon, right?
Exactly.
The only thing I want to add to that, my perspective on that is smile, because it's an opportunity to be a better man or a better woman, right?
Well, and that was something I'll give you credit. I think when people saw us walking, we were walking around your house and around the island there. I think people kind of a little uneasy.
For sure they were.
Yeah, I mean, this is you got
these monkeys walking around at 5 a.m., 6 a.m.
And but we had an opportunity.
Yeah,
we could have said nothing.
Yeah,
but we smiled. We were engaging, and I actually saw some people kind of like turn their head and like it was surprising to them.
Yeah.
But what is the worst that can come from that? Nothing. So you're exactly right. I say that for everyone. If you can hold a door, hold a door. If you can smile, smile. If you can do one small thing to make a person's life better, even if it's fractional, it's still better.
Yep.
Even if it's nothing, it's better. Like the smallest thing, better is better. Thank you, man.
Thanks, man.